Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 6 of the Pompey Patter podcast. I'm joined by Russ and Harry, as usual. Um, and right, so this week's been a bit of a up and down week, I suppose everyone can tell. So what we're going to do, we've got a little running order. We're going to start off with a Sheffield United review, then we're going to move on to Stoke City review. Then we have our Oxford preview, and we also have a special guest who is Jack Ward of the Jack Ward podcast to talk things about Oxford and what he thinks of Oxford's season so far, and obviously previewing the Oxford game. So, and then finishing up with Harry's Who Am I, his new game, which we trialled last week, and then we're going to finish with any other business, which there might be a few things to talk about again. So, boys, I'm warning you now. So, whoever goes second for the Sheffield United review will be first for reviewing tomorrow. So, last night's game, sorry. So, who'd like to go first?
You
No,
choose, Daz.
no,
you
no,
choose.
no one.
You ask the question, Daz,
Right.
and you pick on one of us.
I'll go with Harry.
God's sake.
It's just because we don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sheffield United. It was probably, I'd say, probably our best performance. It definitely carried on from the first 60 odd minutes at Burnley. It was probably a pretty boring game, as such as there weren't really many chances. A lot of the action kind of happened in the middle of the pitch. The fact that we managed to hold our own against basically a Premier League side again, that we managed to pull ourselves together and keep them to a draw. We nullified their attack fairly well, limited them to a few chances. I think it was a pretty positive game. The only thing I'd say was probably we were all expecting probably Shaughnessy to be in there, and he pulled out in the last minute. But McIntyre was, apart from that first challenge where he decided to swipe him. I don't. Was it Raksaki? He just swiped out after like 15 seconds. Other than that, he came in and was again top quality. I think he's been pretty decent since he's come back from injury.
Russ, your thoughts on the Sheffield United game?
Yeah, it's so hard, isn't it? Because after last night, because I really want to praise him for the Sheffield United game because I thought we played really well. I agree with Haz that we didn't necessarily create much. I think Paddy Lane had a good chance. Should have probably buried it. And then Pack's free kick looked like he was going in, and a excellent save by Cooper. We all know what a good goal he is when he was at Plymouth. And then Farrell at the end. I generally thought he was going to score. I jumped out thinking there's no way any professional footballer could miss this. And unfortunately, sailed over the bar. I thought McIntyre was probably his best game. I thought Paul had a great game. I thought Swanson was fantastic. I thought Potts looked good. I thought Murphy, he's got that like aura about him, isn't he? Murphy, he's sort of, but it didn't quite fall into place for him. I felt like every cross was blocked. I felt like every time he tried to do something, it didn't quite come off. But there was no knocking his, trying to get things off, and you don't mind that. Nothing always goes right every time, but he's the sort of player that, that one cross, that one chance, that one run, and something can come out of it. It's just another game where you just sort of thought how we got a score when we're on top, and we didn't.
I thought with the Farrell chance, I think he's definitely got to get that on target at least. I mean, I think he rose just a little bit too late, but for me, he's got to get that on target. It was basically a free header, and as you said, Russ, you were kind of already kind of half off your seat, ready to celebrate when you see him leap up and he's on his own. You're kind of expecting him to put it away. With the Lane chance, I thought actually it was a pretty good save from Cooper again. because it was going where I was sat. It was kind of diagonally. I could see it was going right into that bottom corner, probably in off the post. And the fact that Cooper's managed to get down and save it. I know some people were saying that Lane should have squared it, but for me, I think Lane did the right thing in having that shot.
Yeah, Russ, I get what you're saying. Obviously, because of last night's result, it's kind of tough to have a look back on the Sheffield United result and kind of be a bit positive about the performance, because obviously that just your recency like in your head is going to happen. But I definitely think you've both done really well, is obviously keep it separate, because we're going to need to keep last night separate to Oxford separate as well, because we're going to need to have a whole different outlook and draw a line under last night and have a look at Oxford as like a totally different game. Obviously, I didn't see much of the game because I was at a wedding, because I'm a terrible fan.
You're a part timer,
I'm
mate. That's
getting
what you are.
docked loyalty points. So
You should have told them, I don't care who you are, what relation they are to you, Daz. You say to them, you're getting
Like,
married at a Pompey home game. I'm not there.
I don't care if it's your own wedding, Daz. You can't keep doing this to us.
No, I know I'm a part-time fan, but it's quite nice to sort of just sit back and look from afar. You get a bit of a different outlook. That's my excuse, and that my other half would tell me off, and I don't fancy that, to be honest. But no, she's sound, to be honest. She's really good, but she was felt bad about me missing the game, but that's all
Good.
right. But yeah, but obviously talking about the Paddy Lane opportunity. I did see, obviously, because what I got obviously was a lot of social media before then being able to look at the highlights, things like that. And as you said, a lot of people did say about him squaring the ball. But I do agree with Harry that I think it's not as simple as just squaring the ball in that situation, because when I looked at it, there looked like players coming across that line anyway. So it looked like even if he did square it might have been cut out. I did see someone come on the edge of the box. Maybe that could have been an option. But with your attacking play,
I agree with Paz. You're shooting there.
yeah,
I didn't even look to see if there was someone he could pass to. It was put in the net, Paddy.
yeah, and that's it. You want that with your attacking players, don't you? You want them to get in that final third. You want them to be selfish. Of course, if it's glaringly on for a tap in, and it's on for definite, then yeah. But when you got people in that with that kind of chance, I think he's got to take take the shot. And to be fair to Michael Cooper, obviously he's a great goalkeeper. I was more impressed with the save from Pack's free kick, where it bounced, because you see them happen all the time where the ball comes in, it bounced just in front of the keeper, but then you've also got so many players running across his eye line, and I thought that was a great save, to be honest. Yeah, so I mean, it's a good result. I was more worried about the performance and how do we do against Sheffield United, because obviously we're not expected to win against a really, really strong Sheffield United side, but it was important for me that there was a good performance there going into, which I was hoping, which was going to lead us into the Stoke game. Obviously, we'll hold back on that for a second. I want to see if there's anything else you guys want to talk about the Sheffield United game before we go into Depression City.
The only the only thing I wanted to say was how the ref did not see. It was once Potts was amazing when he did that little flick up over his head and just pipped it through a couple of players. He played it out to Blair, and Blair just gets absolutely twatted by Ahmed Hodzic. And I don't know, because he was already booked, so I don't understand how he wasn't given a second yellow for that. He was nowhere near the ball. Blair had kicked it past him. He wipes him out, and the ref doesn't give anything. And I mean, the ref had a pretty decent game, to be honest. He wasn't the worst one we've had for sure, but to miss something like that, and especially as the linesman is just there, it's like his side, it's right in front of him. How he can see that and not give anything, it was a bit bizarre, but other than that, as I said, we did well. The only thing
there is a couple of things I want to say about the ref though. One, how on earth was it only 1 minute added on for first half? It must have been at least 3 or 4. And from Pack's free kick, it goes out for a corner and he blows for half time. It's been literally a minute, and I don't understand. There was quite a few stoppages in that first half. Totally lost to where they only got a minute from. And what was the other thing I was going to say? It's gone. No, sorry, lads. There's someone else that he annoyed me with. No. This is a general thing, actually. Watched the Man City Arsenal game. What was it, last weekend or whatever it was? I watched Trossard get a second yellow for kicking the ball away. And then obviously we saw the incident with Rice. And all I've done is watch West Brom and Sheffield United continually smash the ball away and nothing gets done about it. And it's starting to really piss me off.
It's the consistency, isn't it? That's the issue. There's nothing wrong with the rule. Is the rule, right? When they've sent off Trossard and Rice, the referees have followed the law. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just putting that into play and having the consistency. But I just don't have any faith in consistency in these lot. So
it kind of feels like, even though the refereeing wasn't great last season, it just feels like last season the refereeing was a little bit better. I don't know whether that's because of the pace of the game, where it's different for referees to be able to make decisions. Obviously, in the Premier League, the refs are supported by VAR, so they can afford to miss stuff. So maybe it being in the Championship, that there might be a thing where the referees just can't keep up. And to be honest, like, referees at this level are full time, so I haven't got any issues with refs making mistakes. That's going to happen. Like, Pompey players will make mistakes every game, so the opposition players, that sort of stuff. So you can't not allow the referee to make some mistakes, but I'd rather him just be consistent with the referee's mistakes, and they're just a bit all over the place. And I think the linos don't help either. I can't remember which game it was. I'm going to just say it before it's fresh in my mind before we move on. There was, I think the ball went out for a goal kick, and I can't remember if it was for us or for them. The lino went to flag for a corner, and the referee went to it was going to give a goal kick, and all of a sudden the lino changed and put his flag up for a goal kick. And I said to the lad next to me, I said he was about to flag for a corner, but because the ref thought it was a goal kick, he quickly changed his mind. And that's one thing I hate about officials, that I know they're backing each other up, but it's like, well, if that lino's got a better option and a better view, give the corner or stuff like that, even if it was against us. Just officiating at this level just seems to be a bit all over the place at the moment, or maybe it's fact because we're playing more the bigger boys that they get some better decisions than we do. But yeah, so shall we move on?
Do we have to?
Shall we do it to ourselves and everyone listening?
Did something happen last night? What happened?
I don't know. I woke up this morning with a massive cold sweat, and I thought it was all a dream, a nightmare, should we say? But no, we weren't that lucky enough.
I blame you, Daz. You kept banging on in the chat. This is the day. This is it. This is the win.
Actually, no. I only said that once. But I was feeling after the Sheffield United performance, I felt positive. I thought we could at least go there and I think
we all did. We all did, didn't we? To be fair,
at least get a positive performance and a result. But I knew we were going to get spanked at some point. It was always going to happen, but I did not expect us to get spanked like that last night against Stoke. And obviously, Russ, we said on our WhatsApp group last night, saying about obviously Oxford are better than these guys. And I think obviously performance-wise at the moment, they probably are. But if you look at their team sheet and the players they've got, Stoke have got a good side, a good quality side, at least a mid-table championship side. They just obviously have been all over the place in the last few years. But yeah, so Russ, can you take us away with that monstrosity last night, please?
Well, what made it worse is I had to go back and watch pretty much the first 3 goals in the game because I was at my son's football training, so I missed it all. So to be able to comment on it, I've watched it back, and I generally think it's up there as one of the worst performances I've ever seen, especially the first 15 minutes of the second half. It's just and I know, Harry, you're gonna try and be a bit more, probably the more level-headed one out of I don't know how Daz feels, but definitely out of me. But I don't care who you are, what level you're at, to lose not only 6-1, but to concede that amount of goals in that quick succession is just a no. It's a no. And how many players just went into hiding. It was embarrassing, and this is what's difficult. Sheff United, you thought, they're all, they're playing against near enough a Premier League team, and they're outstanding. Burnley, outstanding. Leeds, all right, we could have been 2 or 3-0 down, but the effort was there, the commitment was there. But last night and it weren't just that. The first half, we scored from absolute counter attack. I mean, we deserved absolutely nothing from that game. We're actually lucky to even got a goal. And I watched that first goal back. I know you gave me a quite a decent description, Daz, in the chat. Basically saying that was it weak hands Norris or something like that.
Wobbly wrists, Norris.
But it's even worse than that, because it's not even just about how shit his wrists were. It's that wasn't even a good free kick. It was a really bad free kick. It wasn't even in the corner. And just like I said against Burnley, it's not like one of those where you think, oh, wow, what a goal, what a hit. And you know what I've done today, about half an hour before we come on? I went back on last season and I watched every single goal we conceded last season. And I didn't realise the amount of goals that were either to his right from distance, or he didn't even dive. Honestly, go back and watch. I'd never noticed it. I think when you're doing well, you don't notice it. But I can't believe the amount of goals he conceded on his right-hand side from distance, or didn't even bother diving. It's got to the point now where his credit in the bank is fast running out, and I would not be upset if Schmidt was in goal on Saturday. Harry?
Yeah, go on, Harry.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, the fact that they hit the crossbar after, was it 35 seconds? You thought, fucking hell, here we go again. It was just straight away. Did we even get off the team bus? To be honest, I don't think we did. It was such a vast contrast from Saturday. But as we said, and we all came away from Saturday really positive, thinking, do you know what? We can get a result at Stoke. After that performance, it had built up from the weeks before. We'd got better and better. We looked like a unit. And there was only a couple of changes. Blair, I think, probably deserved to start. And obviously, Ogilvy was an enforced one, we know. But he wasn't really at fault for, the sixth one. But it's so bad you talk about 6 goals in it. Fucking hell. But with the first one, I don't understand why we only had a 3-man wall, and that also comes down to Norris. As a goalkeeper, you're deciding how many men you want in that wall. You tell, probably Pack, I would assume, or the people that should know that they're in the wall. You always see it when they zoom on the TV. They'll put 4 fingers or 5. You're putting a 3-man wall, and then he stood so far over to the left, which is his side, but you've got a 3-man wall. There's so much gap that Cannon can shoot at, and as you said, it was just he actually got there, but because he went into Poppadom wrist mode, he didn't do anything. His hand is there, your hand should be hard, stiff, but it was just floppy, and that's why it went in. But he's done that before, and then it was just mistake after mistake, really, because you think the second goal, it came from conceding from your throw-in in their half. Swanson got out-muscled. Paul was just stuck in no man's land. Cannon runs on the blind side of McIntyre. And I don't think you can really blame Norris, because, all right, he gets beat at his near post, but Cannon hits it with such... he hits it so hard, Norris has got no chance. It goes top corner. That one, I don't think you can blame Norris. But after we get that equaliser, you think, okay, what we at 35 minutes? Okay, we'll just steady the ship. We kind of grew into the game a little bit after that, but then we just threw it away. The good work, we managed to ride the storm until we scored. It was a good counter-attack. It was unselfish from Murphy to square it to Omani. And then we just go, fuck it, have a couple goals. And it's just stupidity. And it's just baffled me that we ended up looking okay, You think 1-1, here we are, and then what was it? 5 goals in about 17 game minutes over the 2 halves. It's just that was just poor.
Yeah, the third goal again. Just it's like I don't even know who he's even passing to. There is literally nobody there. It's
He
almost
obviously saw Pack's shirt, right? But
I think it's more
Pack's,
muscle memory. Where they do that so often, I think he just thought he was going to be there, and he wasn't.
maybe. But Pack was there, but you could see very quickly there were 2 Stoke players, and they could see what he was doing, and they knew that the ball was going to Pack, so they went, "All right, cheers for that." And then, I mean, he proper thundercunted that, didn't he, Gallagher? But
Yeah.
you
And
can't.
that's what's frustrating is all goals were preventable, all of them. Every
That's
single
it.
one of them.
If you were to be outclassed and there was something that they did like really well, and you think, oh, do you know what? You can, like when Paddy Lane scored that goal for Fleetwood at ours at the Fratton end, he's just smacked it. It's gone top bins. You can stand back and go, do you know what? There's nothing you can do. Fair play. But when it's your throwing, and when you're the keeper and you've literally passed it straight to them, you have caused your own problems and you're making yourself worse. That's what's frustrating.
I think what's worrying me is how many goals we are conceding that have come from our own stupidity. Look at the Burnley second goal. What was Richie doing? And then, as I said, literally all the goals. All right, it was never a penalty in a million years. Like I do not know what the ref was doing, but I believe it was Paddy Lane that passed it stupidly in the first place. I've never seen so many mistakes from everyone on the pitch. Probably other than the Brighton lad up front. I can't think of his name top of my head. Omani, that's it. I always want to call him Maloney. I don't know why. Omani. There was just the best part of the game was the last 15 minutes.
What? Because we didn't concede.
Not just that, but it was the only time that we actually caused them problems.
But that's because they stopped.
Yeah, exactly.
It was, what was it, 55 minutes they got that sixth goal. And I said to my stepson, I literally went, this could be 10. Because,
I was begging. I said in the chat, didn't I? I said, this can't be 9.
If they kept going, they could have had double figures and it was easy for them. We'd sunk. We'd gone. We'd had enough. We just weren't in the game at all.
It was like, I don't know if you what you watched on. Did you hear the Stoke commentators? I've never seen commentators be so angry that you're losing a game. Sorry, that you're winning a game 6-1.
They're winning 6-1, and it was the actual main commentator was fine. It was the co-com, and it was like, just you're winning 6-1. How can you be so negative? I didn't get it. But Messino, I don't know if you've seen in the news. He said about the way we lost. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen much today.
So
I've kind of avoided everything. I put up a nice 90s video just to maybe cheer everyone up.
That was really nice. I actually enjoyed that.
So Messino went, it was the nature of the way we went under. We didn't run. I think didn't think we competed. We lost tackles, headers. The players have to do a lot better than we did. This is the bit that interests me. I've learnt loads. I've learnt lots about individuals. We've learned the certain moments when the going gets tough. We saw players go under. In general, if you look at the way we started the game, we have too many players making the wrong decisions. You come to Stoke and decide we're going to allow them to build pressure for the first 10 minutes, allow them to get their heads up and allow them to score. It's beyond me.
Yeah, he's absolutely spot on because I said in the chat yesterday, like when a team is struggling, the last thing you want to do is give them a leg up. Like they're obviously in a bad run of form, similar to what we were or are. And the last thing you want to do is just allow them to come onto you. And that first 10, 15 seconds when he pings it off the bar, because I watched it on that Sky Sports Plus, and I was listening to the only thing that got me through the game was listening to Gareth Evans' dulcet tones, and like as he was saying, our back line was too deep, which meant that like Stoke City could just get in amongst us and pick us off. And yeah, we just didn't have any fight about us really. Like we'd win a first ball, but then we'd go win a second. We're just too lightweight. And if anything typifies that game, it was the third and the fourth goal for them. Now, don't get me wrong, all the goals I hated, but that third goal, you're 2-1 down, coming into the last minute of the half. Just put it in the corner. Get into half time. Get reshaped. Go again in the second half. I don't have no idea why he's passing it out like that. Like, I mean, you taught this at like under 13s, 14s level. Like the last couple of minutes, if it's tight, just see the half out, and then obviously when you come out for the second half, first 5 minutes, nothing silly, and it's just one thing after another. Like I don't think it's a penalty. It's very soft if it is, and like everything about those two goals just infuriated me. And then when the sixth went in, I just like stood up and like walked out of the room. I looked at my other half, and she was like, "There's like half an hour left." I was like, "I know." I was like, "There's half an hour left. This could be embarrassing." And I thought to myself, the only reason I'm actually watching the rest of this game is because I'm just hoping it's not 9. And obviously we've got to talk about it today. So yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah.
John Messina's spot on.
That's what my partner said. She was like, "Well, why don't you just turn it off?" I was like, "I can't because I've got to talk about it tomorrow."
Exactly.
The same with me. The only thing with it was the same as you said, Daz. That ref in the other game gave it one way and then the other. The ref for that penalty, the ref actually blew the whistle and gave us the free kick. If you watch it, he actually puts his arm and gives us the free kick, and then all of a sudden changes his mind and then gives the penalty. And it's not a penalty at all. They're both sliding.
Yeah.
Neither of them are. All right, Cannon's got the ball first, but he's on the stretch as well. Norris realises he's not going to get there. He actually pulls out he pulls his legs and his hands away. It's just a natural collision. It's a coming together. Yet the ref decided, oh, it's a free kick to us. Oh no, hang on, it's a penalty. And after when that went in, when he was given, you just thought, wow, you just knew that was going to be that really. But
yeah,
go on,
mate. I was just going to say, like, I think for the ref, that's muscle memory, as in giving it as to start giving it to the keeper as a free kick, because keepers are always, majority of the time, always well protected. So he probably thought straight away that's a free kick to us, because like referees just can't wait to give fouls against for goalkeepers. And then obviously it must have been the lino along with Cannon, because if you notice he stays on the floor like holding his leg. I think like he does get to the ball before Norris, that's absolutely fine, but for it to be an actual penalty is just way too soft for my liking. But shall we forget about that because now we have our special guest that's just turned up to like not remind us of anything that happened last night and look forward to the weekend. Jack, how you doing? You okay?
How you doing, gents? You okay?
Yeah, all good, mate.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah,
we were okay until last night.
Yeah, I knew about this obviously before last night, and I was keeping a keen eye on it, and I thought this is going to be a more interesting show than I first thought. It was a tough watch, and I'm not a Pompey fan.
It was definitely interesting. It just wasn't interesting for us. It was interesting for anyone else if you were watching it.
What's your take on it last night, Jack? Did you see it? Did you watch it?
I did. I watched it. It was from your perspective. It was a quite a humbling result. I think it also felt worse, and I think you've probably said this. It felt worse because this was the game that, on paper, felt like a turning point. It felt like an opportunity to look at the squad in a much better sense, because it was it was depleted with injuries. It was also tricky because you've had a very, very tough start to the season. The fixtures have been pretty brutal. So it felt like an opportunity to sort of put that past you, to take positives from that. Although you haven't won a game, there were positives. Again, Sheffield United in the most recent one, there were aspects of good parts, but just none were replicated last night. And I think that's where the blow comes. I mean, conceding 6 isn't ideal either, but the blow does come from the fact that it felt like there could have been some minor steps forward. But last night it was, I mean, I was going to say 6 steps back, but it probably feels like more.
Yeah, I mean, as we said earlier, that Stoke, when they got that 6, they just eased off. And if they didn't, we could have been looking at probably double figures, which would have just been, they kind of did us a favour and kind of just backed off. What did you think of that? We were just discussing as you came on, was the penalty. What did you think of that?
It was soft. It was a clumsy move, though, right? It was clumsy. Like the whole thing was a mess. And I think the situation you've got there is you've that's a moment where you're forcing a referee to make a decision. It was soft, but that's just that screamed of a side that was lacking in an element of decisive decision making, and a side that were lacking in confidence, a team that were not sure what they were doing. And it's a very minor moment in the grand scheme of things. It's a split-second moment. It leads to a penalty that, again, like you say, it probably is on the softer side, but it's it almost summed up the night. It was just a real lack of decision making and second guessing. And we all saw what Pompey was so good at last season. It was instinct. It was it came naturally. It was snappy. It was controlled. It was being so good in moments, and that's been something that I've been, I think, waxing lyrical about in the last couple of seasons with Pompey, especially sort of last season. Being so good in those split-second moments, and last night it felt like you got every one of those moments wrong.
So I assume after watching last night, you're pretty confident of Saturday. Tell us how you feel you're doing. Obviously, you don't seem to be missing Murphy too much.
No, not. Look, I'm sure that discussion will come up. I thought Murphy was your best player last night, to be honest. So yeah, I think he was a bright spark. And whatever Oxford fans think of Josh Murphy, or what the majority feels, I think from my perspective, I've been very, very open about it. What Josh Murphy did in an Oxford United shirt will be forever remembered. He is a hero, but because of what he did and what he helped us achieve, which was promotion into the Championship, he made a decision to move on. The move wasn't maybe liked amongst all Oxford fans, but him as a person, he was a fantastic personality, especially in that 6-month period where he was in the limelight and a key part of what we were trying to do. As for our entire season, yeah, we're very, very happy with it. We feel we started strong. We feel that we've laid down the foundations to build on what was a really good last couple of weeks. I'd say that probably a little bit longer than that, probably sort of 5-6 weeks actually at the end of last season, when Des Buckingham really started to move the train in the right direction and ultimately achieve the ultimate goal of getting into the second tier. So it's been a really strong start. We've away from home's clearly been our weakness, but we sort of put that aside with a fantastic comeback against Luton on Tuesday. We were very, very good in that game, I thought. In that second half in particular, we had some real chances before we even scored that one to get the one back. I thought we had chances. We've been good, I think, at home as well. We've run beaten at home. We've won every game other than Burnley, which was a 0-0 draw. So we are confident. We're not naive, though. We're not going into this sort of with our eyes closed. We understand that Pompey need a reaction. I was speaking to my good friend Tom. I'm sure you know Tom as a Pompey fan. He said that the thing that is in Pompey's favour, that could easily be twisted into a negative quite quickly, but I agree, is that Des Buckingham and this Oxford United team will absolutely know that Pompey need a reaction, and they need one of the biggest reactions they're going to get, because if it starts badly, a Fratton Park or an unhappy Fratton Park is not a nice place to play football if you are wearing a blue shirt.
Isn't it funny how in football, was it 5-0 he lost to Bolton?
5-0 to Bolton, yeah.
Yeah, and then it was almost like from that moment, you went on a good run, got in the playoffs on the last day, thanks to us, I like to point out.
Sure.
And then you've been incredible, I think. I put out a tweet beginning of the season, everyone's like, tips, promotions and dark horses and stuff like that. And I had an Oxford fan reply and put yourselves down as a dark horse. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah, I think we can get playoffs. And I kind of laughed it off because I had you as 20th. It's written down, 24th, sorry, written down on my bit of paper. But then I thought, why is he so confident? And I had a look at your signings in more depth. And I think they've been quite impressive. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, our recruitment was top. I think I think we recruited the best out of the 3 promoted sides. I know it's easy to say, and that's not just looking at the league table and looking at the points return. I genuinely believe that I would have said that before the first ball was kicked. And again, that could have been looked at differently. And you can't really judge a transfer window until the players actually play football. So maybe that's a naive statement, but I stand by that point now. I think we have recruited the best out of the teams that promoted from League One last season. And the reason behind that was it was a clear driven strategy that was trying to build a squad as well as a team. We looked very, very carefully at players that were that could grow with the football club. We actually moved away from the loan market as such and actually tried to invest some real, some good money into long-term players like El Mazouni, and that was one that I was absolutely started that nobody else went and got El Mazouni. He is somebody who has been sensational since he signed for Oxford. He was the perfect midfield option. If you were looking for an energetic midfield partner in a double pivot or a single pivot, El Mazouni was the guy. You had to spend a bit of cash, and we did that because we feel that if we can put that money in now, he's going to be worth probably triple in a couple of seasons' time. People like Dembele, who we signed from Birmingham, we spent good money on him. Will Volks, we got on a free transfer. We did use the low market. Ben Nelson was a really, really good signing. We also sort of had that stability of keeping hold of players like Jamie Cumming, who's the number one goalkeeper during that fantastic run. We kept hold of him. We got him on a free transfer from Chelsea. So we've found a real balance, and we've got experience. We've also invested in players that we think can do the job now, that can grow, can expand. And then you start trying to develop your own players like Tyler Goodrum. He's someone that has been absolutely phenomenal since he put on an Oxford shirt, since he made his debut, but this season he's come on leaps and bounds. So yeah, I thought we did recruit well. I thought we did recruit well anyway. You sort of see it all come together. And well, I like to look at it in the sense that these last couple of weeks have been doing this without Cameron Brannigan, and El Mazouni stepped up and filled in that spot fantastically well. I think that says everything about the sort of the drive that we put in during the summer.
Yeah. You mentioned. Sorry, mate. Go on. How are you going?
Sorry, I was just going to say, you mentioned Goodrum there. Obviously, that goal against Luton was pretty special. Obviously, he was there last season. As you said, he kind of grew into the season and into the team. Apart from him, obviously, Mark Harris as well started off pretty well. Apart from those two, who else has stood out? Because obviously, they've kind of been the two standouts from looking from the outside in as a preview. Who else has stood out apart from those two guys and obviously El Mazouni?
I think we've been one thing we have looked good at, and I think that's something that will be interesting to see if we can replicate that, because on the way away from home, I think we've been slightly worse at it. Tuesday, it was much better, but the out of possession shape through the entire games of football on the road have been a little bit inconsistent, but at home they've been great. I think our back four has been really, really good. I think Elliot Moore has been phenomenal. I think Kieran Brown can play at centre back, left centre back. He has played at left back in the last 2 games. He's naturally a centre back, but playing him as an extra defender in that role gives us that extra defensive stability. So that whole back line has looked really, really good. Kioso is getting much, much better. I think Dembele really, really could be up there as someone that's impressed us heavily. There's a lot of stick from Birmingham fans when he signed him, that he's this lazy player that will give you moments and can win you games. That's not what we've seen. We can only see what we've watched of Dembele. He's an absolute workhorse and he's a magician with the football. So it's definitely not... it's definitely not what we've seen. And Edwards, who came on as well, someone that was injured all of last season pretty much. We kept him part of the rehab process. He's come back fitter, stronger. He came on and changed the game against Luton. And that's the thing. We've got game changers. We've got a squad now that can come on and can change, that can be rotated, that can impact from match to match, from minute to minute within matches. And I think that's something that's really important. But like you say, I think Goodrum and Harris and El Mazouni, your 3 that stand out. Rodriguez is a moment of magic type of player. He's brave. He's sometimes frustrating, but also an exceptional footballer. And that back line looks strong at the moment. I think that question's harder when you're playing well, I think, because you end up nearly naming the entire team.
Yeah, I was going to say about that. I'm going to butcher his name now. That El Mazouni, because I remember him when when Leyton Orient took us apart 3-0 in the first half down at Fratton Park, and then for the whole of the 90 minutes, he just absolutely ran the show. And when I saw it, like there was interest in him from you guys, I thought that's something we should have really gone for. Because I just liked it. I thought he was absolutely quality, absolutely ran the show. Obviously, from last season, which I think it makes it even more impressive that you got in through the playoffs, you got promoted. And obviously, the fact that Manning left relatively early in the season last season, then obviously your boy came in after that. Obviously, I know Manning and your manager now like to play like a similar kind of brand of football, obviously like good football and that. Is there anything in particular that's different from Manning to now that you can pinpoint that's maybe pushed you on to that next level to get promoted to now then doing well so far this season?
Yeah, loads. I think I don't think I've said this publicly yet, but I will. I'm happy to say it now. I think what Liam Manning did when he came in was good. He kept us up. He was, he was seen as a bit of a hero. We were on a terrible run. He steered us away from relegation. He laid the foundations, which was really, really good. It was important. We had a fantastic summer, one of the best summers we've had. And then we started the season really strongly. He moved on. He found an opportunity and jumped us at the first opportunity. That was his decision. But I will say this: I think I believe Des Buckingham is a better fit for Oxford United right now than Liam Manning would have been. And the reason for that is you've got Des Buckingham. And again, that's harsh. It's sometimes difficult to see because you don't quite know what Liam Manning would have done with this squad if he had got promoted. But what we can see is how Des Buckingham has got us in a fantastic shape. And we look organised. We look strong. We look like a unit. We look like a team that are difficult to break down. In transition, we're great. And that's the one thing. I think Liam Manning was much more, I think he was slightly more possession, I think far more possession based. I think he was somebody that, and Des Buckingham likes to control games. You will see us probably have more possession in games because he is a manager that's similar to Liam Manning. He's come through the City group. So that is one of their biggest ideologies. But the pace in transition, games are played much quicker when we've got, I think, a few more, arrows to our arsenal where we can go slightly more direct. We can go long if we can. In behind is definitely something. Liam Manning was slightly more of a short passer. Someone to sort of keep the ball and play, I guess, safer at times. Look, again, that's not me, I guess, slagging him off. He was a very, very good manager, and I'm sure at Bristol City, it will turn out well. He's a good upcoming young coach. But what Des Buckingham has done is transforms into a team that's difficult to beat, and in the Championship, that's what you've got to be. I think you can be naive and you can think that because you've had a good League One season, that perhaps you can sort of go into the Championship playing the same way. You can't. You'll get found out. You will get found out. You've got to adapt. And one thing that Des Buckingham has made us is extremely adaptable and extremely flexible.
What's your weaknesses? What are you worried? Is there anywhere we can exploit you? I know I'm probably looking and watching us last night. You probably think, but I'm hoping that's a one-off, because if you watch us against Burnley and Sheffield United and them sort of games, we've been solid. Maybe not creating a lot, but we have been solid. So is there something that we can exploit?
I think the biggest thing, especially away from home, has been the sort of momentum switches in games we've sort of struggled to adapt to. We've led in 2 of the away games, I think. Blackburn was one, and Bristol City was the other. And against Coventry is another example of it. It went 1-0 down in that game. When the tide turns away from home, we seem to get a little bit, I don't want to say panicky, but we things aren't quite as controlled, and we do sort of start resorting to things that aren't in our best interest. So Luton was the first opportunity on Tuesday where we saw that change a little bit, where we went 2-0 down and we came back to make it 2-2, and then you felt, I think we've all been there as football fans where you sort of go, this is feeling inevitable now. The pressure is on, and we feel like at any moment they're going to take a chance. I mean, I know that's not me winding you up. Yesterday there was a few opportunities. I imagine that was a feeling you felt. But especially when the games are tighter and you have maybe worked hard to get to a point and you've got to this And it's so easy when you need promoted and you are the underdogs and you are away from home to invite pressure. And sometimes if it does turn and the opposition fans and the players start building a bit of a tempo and a rhythm, I think sometimes Oxford this season, in I think every away game other than the one that we got a point from on Tuesday, I think we've actually, I don't know, collapse is a strong word, but I think we've definitely been affected by that. So we've got to be a bit more mature, and that comes with experience. We've got a squad here that hasn't played a lot of championship games. We've got a squad here that is still learning, and that comes back to your question about recruitment. We recruited in players that are young as well as experienced, but a lot of younger players that can grow and are hungry to be good at this level. So maybe I think that's a bit of a weakness in the fact that at times when things don't look as as amazing and don't look as strong and in our favour, the tide can turn quite quickly. So. Yeah, that is one thing. And actually, it's important to mention that because, if Pompey after the game on Wednesday, do go 1-0 down, what is that crowd going to do? What is that Fratton Park crowd going to do? Because if it turns on Pompey, it falls in Oxford's favour straight away. If it gets behind Pompey, like it did in that 2-1 win, I know in a title race that you were currently in at that point last season, you saw that was the same sort of thing. So yeah, that's intriguing. Of course, there's a few tactical and nuanced things that are weaknesses because we're not perfect. We're 11th in the league. We've lost games this season. But the biggest one has been away from home and how we've dealt with those moments on the road.
I think for me, it's okay. I do admit last night was really poor, but it's probably as we said before, the last few games before that, our performances have started to build up well, and it was a complete fall off from where we'd seen. We were all really positive after the Sheffield United home game, and I think I don't see why we need to kind of be not against. That's not right, but why we shouldn't back them, even if we do go one down, because it was as long as the performance is there and we can see what's going. If we perform how we did last night, I would get it if we went 1-0 down. But if we actually perform well and perform more like we did against the first 60 minutes of Burnley and the whole game of Sheffield United, if we have the same level of performance as then and we go 1-0 down maybe early on, I still think that the fans will still back because as a club or as the squad and the management have earned that. It's our first test since we've been in this league. And last year when we got beaten at home by Orient, we lost 4-0, and there was another game we lost 4-0 at home. Blackpool, that's it. When we lost them, the fans stuck with them behind most of the game, and it was an anomaly because we then kind of recovered after that. Maybe it took a couple of games to kind of, maybe we then drew the next game and then won. But if we can do the same, we take last night as an anomaly and forget about it. And being fickle fans anyway, if we end up beating you, everyone will forget about Wednesday anyway. So I think we've got to use it as a positive. And as long as we do bounce back, I think there's got to be some extra fight in from the players to think we've got to get something out of this game. And hopefully they'll use that as an advantage. So maybe that will help us rather than help you.
Yeah, I think so. I also think you're right about this is an opportunity now for Pompey fans to also understand their role, understand that their job is to now get behind a struggling team and get behind a team that is visibly lacking in confidence. And I think I've read a few things about Mousinho in the fallout of this game, and he's spoken about how he's unrecognisable. It's not the team that he's built, that he's seen success with. And that's all. I imagine that is the case, but I think that's also a rallying call to get behind a team that need to get back to that team, to become more recognisable, to have an identity. And I still think Pompey fans need to see it. I think they need to see it. They need a convincer. I'm big on that. I'm big on the idea that fans and players are the same in the sense that you need a convincer. And our away from home convincer, sorry to bring it back to us for a second, but our away convincer was on Tuesday night. It was like, we can do it. We are able to do this. This is how we can play away from home. This is also how we can come back from being 2 goals down. We can go 2-0 down against the Premier League side last season with a large amount of that squad still the same that gave Arsenal a good game at Kenilworth Road last season. They have had a fantastic rise, Luton. We can go 2-0 down against them and fight back, and the players go, okay, this is doable. We can go to Fratton Park regardless of their situation and give them a phenomenal game, because Pompey weren't in the Premier League as last season, and Pompey haven't got players that have played at the top level of, I'd say, world football, definitely English football last season. So I think you're in the same boat. I think Portsmouth players and fans need to see the full package. They need to see a game go well from start to finish. They need a result as well. We can talk about performances looking okay. This is a 0-0 draw against Sheffield United, which is a good draw. But if you can get a real sense of output from that being 3 points, I think things look totally different. So, yeah. And then you sort of get that sucker punch of getting absolutely smashed last night, which is obviously not helpful whatsoever. But yeah, I think what Massini needs to come in and do, I don't have to say come in today and for the remaining training sessions before that game on Saturday, is sort of strip it back, go to basics. When he came in, you were struggling. When you came in, you couldn't buy a win, and you beat Exeter, I believe. So you've almost got to do the same. I know it's not easy. And in fact, I'd actually say on the flip side of that, he could see it as being easier because he's got a whole body of work to look at. He came in his first full season, he won you the league title. So there's a clear body of work. There's plenty of evidence that he can do it. So much evidence. He's one of the most exciting managers in the Championship that's upcoming. But he has got to make sure that this doesn't get out of hand. And very, very quickly, as Tom said to me on the phone earlier, you can sign every contract in the world, but you are only 10 games away from being in deep trouble. And if you don't win a game soon, regardless of how you feel about Messina and what he's done before, football fans want to see result, and they do not want to see you struggling for endless amounts of games. At the moment, it's a really, really struggling start.
Yeah, it's. Don't get me wrong. When the fixtures come out, we all went, poof. Okay, we're going to be near. Like I expected, bottom 2, 3. It wasn't a shock, but let's hope for some good performances, and then from Stoke onwards, that's the teams we're competing against. And then we kind of did, other than probably the Sunderland and West Brom game, we had been in games, we had competed against teams looking to get into the Premier League or just been in the Premier League. And then your first game against someone where you're like, right, this is where we're competing, is the game we decide to absolutely just throw in the towel, which, I'm again hoping it's just a one-off situation. But what I ask you, Jack, is what were your predictions for the 3 promoted teams? Because I think I had you quite high. I do think I agree with you. You had the better recruitment, and I do think you finish above us. I had us near the relegation, but I didn't think we'll be that worried. I'm still leaning that we'll be okay eventually. And then I still think, even though Derby have picked up a couple of wins, they haven't impressed me at all, and I still think they'll be down there. I don't know what you think, Jack.
Yeah, I think I had. I think I had all 3 to stay up, which was, I think, seen as quite controversial. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't see Pompey as the team that were going to let that prediction down. To be honest, I was pretty confident that Messinio and Portsmouth were going to be fine. And I think, and you still might be, because you do these predictions. You don't go through every fixture. You don't go through the start of the season and difficulties levels of a run, of a block of games. You also don't look at injuries. You can't predict the future. So, and you've had all of that plus a little bit more. But I did think there was going to be a slight. I did think we'd see earlier what Portsmouth under Messinio in the Championship would look like, and that's my honest opinion. I think we know what Paul Warne's Derby in the Championship looks like. It isn't sexy. It's not a very good brand of football. However, what it is, or what it can be, a lot of the time, actually, they got promoted in second last season, and they have started this season pretty well, is that they can be very, very productive. And they will not dominate games of football. They will go 1-0 up and absolutely park the bus. But if they feel as though that's their best way of getting results, who can blame them? Because I throw it back on Pompey fans. If you said you go 1-0 up and you park the bus out of every aspect of Fratton Park on Saturday, you would do that. And if Derby feel as though that's the best way of getting results of the squad that again isn't able to spend millions and millions, I think it's a productive showing. I think Oxford have been slightly different, slightly more, I think more similar to Pompey, the fact the way they've recruited and the way that their squad has been built and the manager that they've got to. I think Paul Warne is very, very different to Des Buckingham and Massini. And although Massini and Des Buckingham do have their differences, I think Paul Warne is a slightly different example. But yeah, I think my prediction, I think I had Derby the lowest. I think I then had Oxford in the middle. And then I had Pompey as a team I thought would do the best out of the three, just because of what you'd built, the structure, Richard Hughes and the hierarchies, all sort of singing off the same hymn sheet, and a group of players that were off the back of a title win. I'm intrigued to see what you've got to say. You know, I've seen a lot of stick for people like Paddy Lane, who are absolutely crucial in that title win, and now suddenly he's not showing the level that he should be to stay and be a key part of this championship team. And that's where we've got players like Tyler Goodrum, who were like, okay, he's doing well in League One, he's a key part, and what he's done is got even better. I think the problem you've had is you've got players that were good in League One, and some of them just haven't quite been up to scratch, and that is going to be that is a letdown. That's the difference sometimes.
No, I agree with that, because I think that I've said it before on one of our previous episodes I do worry about the levels we're getting from our League One boys. I think other than Paul, which I think he already was a championship player in my opinion when we got him.
Yeah,
that sort of level. McIntyre's, I know they both were in the defence last night 6-1, but I don't think either of them were completely at fault. Just trying to think of all the other players. I think Swanson's looked all right at this level, but yeah, I do worry. Paddy Lane, I think, look better in the 10 than he has out wide. I just think in the Championship you need pace. I do think that's crucial. I think Ogilvie struggled massively in the Championship. He does worry me. He worried me even in League One a couple of times when we played Derby and Barnsley, where he just got torn apart by faster wingers, and it's been proven again. And is Dembele a right or left-sided winger?
Sorry, who?
Dembele.
Dembele plays on the left normally.
No, that's all right. So that's all right. He's not going up against Ogilvie then. I think I know he's got a couple of goals and fans love him because he does give everything. Even when he come on last night, he was still giving everything to that whistle went. But I don't, he wouldn't. He didn't start that much in League One, and I just can't seem to see the step up from him. I do think we missed Bishop massively. I think a few chances that have come our way haven't. I just think Bishop would have scored that. I think his hold-up play is better than anyone else's we got. I think the only player from League One that really has stepped up well is Callum Lang.
Yeah, and I presume he'll still be injured for Saturday.
I believe
yes.
so.
Yeah, he is.
And you can't. But that's the thing. You've been. I think every Pompey fan has their thoughts on it. Have you been unlucky with injuries, or is that an issue? I mean, I just cannot get my head around the fact. You signed the lad from Fulham, and he's out for the season. I mean, that is just you can't write that type of thing. And this is. I wonder what the Pompey fans' takes on it. Is that a recruitment driven thing? Is that a medical driven thing? Is that luck? I mean, if it is, or unluckiness, if it is unluckiness, then I think you have the worst I've seen in a very, very long time. Because you cannot start a season with that level of fixture congestion. And also, it's even harder for Massinho now when you are able to play to then try and nail down what he wants to do. Because you say, were you going to beat every team that you played up to this point if you had every player available? Probably not. But what you could do is say, well, this is how we're going to play. Whether you're fit later in the season, this is what we're going to do. You almost need a little pre-season now when the players are coming back to go, right, this is how we're going to approach this season. This is the style of play, because it isn't going to be the same as it was in League One. And even if it was, you signed 10 plus players in the summer anyway. So, again, it's about making sure that every player now knows their role. And when you've got such a disjointed squad with players sort of lacking in fitness and players aren't available, and you've got players that, look like they're going to be out for a couple of weeks and end up being out for a couple of months, or look like they're going to be out for 3 months and end up being out for 11 months, it's then even more difficult to sort of plan and understand what a Pompey team looks like. You just hope that settles down. And when it does settle down, it becomes easier because stability is so important.
This is the problem, is that we had Messina describe the last international break as kind of a mini pre-season, because we had the likes of Paul and McIntyre and Farrell, and they've all come back, and then half of those are fit, but now it's the likes of Yengi and Lang, and now they're injured, so you've gained some, but then you're losing more in another place. And with Bawat, he was taking a shot in training. You can't, and he's done his patella tendon. Initially, looks like 6 months, and after the surgery, it's now like the whole season. He's literally been at the club for 2 weeks, and he's just taken an innocuous shot in training. Farrell was there on Saturday, played really well, missed the game last night, and he picked up a knock with his knee by like sliding over or falling over or something in training. Okay, we've had a lot of injuries at the training ground, and some of them, some fans do think that, but a lot of the injuries we've had also last year as well were not even at the training ground. You think Paul was at Chesterfield, Tino Andrew was at Chesterfield, Robertson was not at the training ground. That was during the match.
I feel like that was Exeter, wasn't it? Away.
Yeah. So there's so many things. It's just, there has to be some kind of other reason than just pure unluck. But it's so hard to tell what it is.
There has to be. When's the last time you heard of a player getting injured in a warm-up, let alone two, in 2 home games?
Well, I don't think Shaughnessy was ready. I think that's on them.
Yeah,
Why would you? If he's not fully fit, McIntyre did a good enough job to not be dropped that game. It's not like he had a stinker. There was no reason to rush back Shaughnessy for that game. And now you've made him suffer, and he's now out for further weeks. Whereas if you left him for that game, you could have brought him on off the bench maybe to get him 10 minutes, and then some this week, and then some. You build him up. But I mean, it baffles me. I think it's a mixture of unluck. Is it the training methods? I don't know, because it wasn't even just Messina. We were getting these injuries under Cowley, which makes you think it can't be the. It can't just be. Well, yeah.
Ground itself, is it the pitch?
But then when you talk to Messina, the players, or Rich Hughes and stuff, when they talked about that, they say there's nothing wrong with it. So someone is BSing along the line.
Is it a complete case of this is not an idea that you are signing players that is this not a recruitment? Is there not a level of taking risk with reward in the fact that you feel as though you can probably get a better player than your budget would suggest, but you have to take a risk with the fact that he's probably a slightly more risk of an injury?
I think there's some cases like that. Well, I think Bauer played most games in the Austrian League last season. I think he played like over 30 games. Who else?
Bauer only missed. He's had 2 according to transfer marks. He's had 2 supposed injuries. One was I think the knee issue, which he was out for like 5 games. The other one is bloody quarantine, and he had COVID. So he's not exactly injury prone.
Same with Farrell.
Yeah.
Farrell's not
okay. So if you look at Abdoulaye Kamara, he's had a lot of injuries, but so far he hasn't got.
So he is a risk.
He is a risk, but that's why he was so cheap as well. Because yes, he has the talent, but if he didn't have that injury record, you'd be looking at probably 4 or 5 million for him. But because of his injury record, it brings the price right down. So
if he didn't have the injury record, it'd be Juventus. That's what stopped him going there.
We have taken risks on certain players, but you can't foresee what happened to Bauer, and I don't think Murphy had a particular injury record, did he, last year? But again, he missed the beginning of the season.
Well, Murphy's tricky. I mean, I'd slightly less. We won't get into the conversation because it's irrelevant now. But for a year and for one, and by the way, I think things have definitely changed. But for a year and a half, Josh Murphy wasn't available through what it was. Murphy is a bit of an exception to that. I think he has had some bad injuries.
I think with us, it's with the injuries. It just seems like some players can look at a tackle and they'll get injured, but and I've always said, unless you're in the room, you never truly know what's going on. And I don't think we're going to get the absolute truth out of the club. I just don't think it's going to happen. Because everyone's going to guess. Everyone thinks we should have a dome. Like obviously, signing players, injury records, signing players on cheap and that sort of stuff. But I don't know. I just can't see them coming out and giving
But
us
then
the sort of truth.
look at like Tom Lowry. Like I know he's not in the squad. It doesn't matter. He's not part of the team really anymore. But when we signed him, he wasn't injury prone. He played all the time. And then as soon as we got him, he must have been injured, 5, 6, 7 times?
Yeah.
For me, there has to be some underlying issue, possibly with the training ground. I don't know. Most of the injuries have come from training ground.
Yeah, and also as well, if they are coming from the training ground, technically you don't sometimes have to get injured at the training ground for that to be a factor. It could be the fact that you'll put your body through that stress if the training ground, the pitch isn't good enough, and then that's like a knock-on effect. And then when you're going into games or stuff like that, that could be a knock-on effect. I mean, I don't know. You'd like to think someone like Richard Hughes is so spot on with everything. You'd like to think that he'd be looking at these sort of things and trying to change them. And I mean, if we're going to spend money, that's where it has to be spent, if that is the issue. And it shouldn't be a matter of we need to scrimp or save on this sort of issue. Money needs to go in, if that is the case. But I mean, who's knows?
You got a few injuries yourself, haven't you, Jack? You've got about 6 out at the moment, haven't you?
I think it could be. The biggest one's Brannigan. I think missing Brannigan's going to be, as always, it's going to be difficult. He is our best player. He is a fantastic footballer who leads for example. So he's obviously a blow, but we haven't had him for the last 2 games or 2.5 games. So, 3.5 games actually, because he missed Bristol City as well. He hasn't been available for a while. He's going to be out for another sort of further 2 or 3 weeks. He's the biggest one. Phillips has been out for a couple of weeks, but again, we're lucky that we've got depth in those areas. And I actually think if Phillips was fit now, he wouldn't start, to be honest. Dembele, Edwards, Tyler Goodrum, Owen Dale. I'll be honest, they are above him in the pecking order of potential starters on the flanks. Moore did come off injured against Luton, or came off with some sort of injury. Whether that was precautionary, I'm not sure. He's obviously really important, but we've got sort of centre backs that can step in. You'd rather have your captain and your defender in Elliot Moore that is so good. So yeah, we've got a few. There's a few, but I think at the moment, because we've seen how resilient we've been in dealing with the ones like Brannigan, with Al Mazzuni just coming straight in and obviously not being as good as Cameron Brannigan can be, because they are at very different stages of their career. But fitting in and doing a slightly different role, but to a fantastic level. I think we're okay, to be honest.
So, I'm just wary of time. I don't want to keep you any longer, Jack. So we'll move on to predictions, if you don't mind, and we'll let you go ahead and kick off as you're the guest.
I'll say that I don't know. I think I can see it's crazy. I don't think I've done many spaces in my Twitter spaces in my time. It's amazing. I can sort of see everybody. I'm sort of seeing a few yellow shirts. I'll be as careful, and I'm seeing plenty of Pompey shirts. I would, and I don't know how Oxford fans feel about it. I think after the draw against Luton, I think it is important we back it up. Now, if we back that up with a point, I think it's all right. I think it could be better. If we back it out of the whim, that's perfect. To come out of this block with 4 points is brilliant. To come out unbeaten against Burnley, Luton, and then Pompey as a triple header, I think would be great. I think we have to try and capitalize on the position that you're currently in, but also be wary that you're going to be looking for a reaction and going to look to sort of come back with a real point to prove. I also do think as well, regardless of form, I'm not saying by any stretch is it a derby or a rivalry, but I think there is a little bit of, I think there's always been a little bit of sort of Pompey and Oxford. There's a bit of fire to those games normally. There's a bit of an edge to them. They're not always sort of lovely, friendly encounters.
Started off with Alex Mowat, didn't it? And Nathan Thompson.
Ironically, Mert sort of gave you a bit of a scene to it the other week, didn't he? So
He did.
He
Yeah.
did.
it's amazing sort of how football does those sort of things. So yeah, I think I don't normally predict us to win. Actually, I'm very, very nervous about doing that. I do genuinely believe in talking into existence in the wrong way as well as the right way. But I think we can capitalize on it, and I'm going to go with a 2-1 win. However, I would be content with a draw.
Do you fancy Gibbison, Oxford goal scorer, to add to that?
I'd like to see Sparky get back on the score sheets. I'd go Mark Harris for 1. Rodriguez is in a really, really good form of scoring, but I'm going to go Tyler Goodrum because he's in a really good space in front of goal at the moment.
Nice one. Russ, let's go.
For me, I want to see us change formation to a 3 in the midfield. I think, am I right in saying, Jack, I would say your midfield is your strong point?
Yeah, I think it's one of them. Yeah, do we sort of play with 6 and 2 10s or 6 and 2 8? So you sort of try and. So have you not been playing? So you sort of had a double pivot and then a 10.
Yeah. And I don't think it's working personally, and we haven't got the 10s to create anything anyway. So I don't get the point. That makes sense.
It does feel like you're sort of shoehorning wide players into being 10s, and
yeah, we've had Lane there, we've had Sadie there, we've had Lang there. Where I personally would go 3 in the middle. If we do that, I would say a draw, but I don't think we will. So I'm going to agree. I'm going to go 2-1 Oxford. I just think at the moment it's not. I don't want to play here at the moment, to be quite honest.
Goal scorer for us, Ross?
I was going to say that's probably the first time in a long time that Pompey fans have said that about Oxford, to be honest.
Pompey goal scorer. I'm gonna get in there first. I'm gonna say Murphy because surely he's going to score. Surely.
No doubt in my mind, he will score.
Daz?
Right. Well, I was toying with the idea of being like a bit negative because obviously I've been trying to be as positive as possible. It's not worked, but I'm just going to keep going with it because I think Saturday's going to have. I just got a feeling it's going to be like last season, and it's probably. I mean, I thought that result last season was so important for us. I think it sort of really pushed us on even more to obviously get the job done in last season. So I'm hoping this will be the start and this will be the turning point for us. So I'm actually going to go for 2-1 Pompey, and you will actually be quite surprised who my goal scorer is. Who I'm going to go for.
Murphy.
Josh Murphy. Yeah, I'm going to go with Josh Murphy as well. I'm allowed to do that, right? Because I let you lot do it last time.
You were nice. I'm not going to be. I got in there first.
I think you should be banned from picking Murphy, to be honest.
Yeah, good point. Right, that stumped me now. What am I going to go for? Oh, I'm going to go for Mahoney. Oh, Mahoney? I keep butchering his name, but yeah, I'm going to go for him. Mahoney.
Omani,
that one. That matey. Harry?
So I'm going to go for I would like a win, and I think we have the capabilities just about, but it all depends on how we bounce back. I'm going for a 3-3 draw. I reckon it'll be pretty open, to be honest.
Did you say we're going to get 3 against Stoke?
I did, yeah.
I just don't understand where you think we're going to get all these goals from.
Where's the positivity, Russ? Come on.
It's positive, but it's realistic.
Well, we're making up for all the goals we haven't scored at Fratton Park. You know, when Luke O'Nine's your top goal scorer at home, it's about time we change that.
I don't know what's more embarrassing. That is our top scorer at home, or the 6-1. To be honest,
6-1, definitely.
No, I'd say O'Nien being our top goal scorer at home. 6-1, you can allow that, but having an opposition defender being your top goal scorer at home after 4 games, that's worse, I think.
Well, so I'm going to go for Potts for goal scorer. I think if we do go for a 3 in midfield, which I'd like to see, probably Potts, Pack and Kamara is probably the 3 I'd go. it would enable Potts to be a little bit further forward, and I have a feeling he can get one from outside of the box and curl one into the top corner.
Lovely stuff. So, Jack, we'll let you go, mate. If you, thank you so much for obviously coming on and giving us your time. Yeah, really appreciate you coming on, giving us some wisdom about Oxford, and probably making us feel even more depressed that we might be losing again this weekend. But there's hope.
Before we move on now, Jack's gone. Quick, I know time's getting on. What about your lineups? What would you change? Maybe not give you a whole 11, but just what would you change? Oh, yeah, Jack's back.
Sorry, what was the was the question before
I think
we
we
just
said
said,
thank you for coming
just
on.
said, yeah,
Oh, perfect. Oh, perfect. Yeah, I think I turned to a lister there by accident. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate that. And I was going to say good luck for Saturday, but maybe not.
Are you going,
right.
Jack?
I am going to be there. So if I bumped into anyone, then I'll be saying hello.
Well,
Right back at you.
if we lose, we'll be waiting for you outside.
That's fine. I'm going to run really quickly to the train station.
He's going to go and hide behind Tom instead.
Yeah.
which is totally useless. I'll say that.
Well, good luck for the rest of the season, apart from Saturday.
Yeah,
Cheers, James.
Jack. Thanks, mate.
Cheers,
Thanks so
Jack.
much,
Thanks for
guys.
coming on,
Cheers,
mate.
Jack. Bye-bye.
See you later.
So obviously we're going to go on to obviously quickly like who we'd have the start. I mean, I think Russ. I think you're right going with maybe like a three in the middle. The change I would like to see whether or not because I haven't actually heard some of what Messina said earlier about Norris, but someone seemed to think it sounds like Norris will be starting. But I would bring Schmid in, and then like
I think it's time, isn't it? It's time.
yeah, and then a three of Kamara, Potts, and Pack, and
Yep.
then Murphy. I'd put Lane out on the right, and then have Marnie up top. That's me, to be honest. That's the only changes I'd make, probably.
Yeah, Blair had a bit of a sort of weak on the ball game, didn't he?
Yeah, I think Norris will probably stay. He kind of summing up. He kind of just said he'll be disappointed for what he knows what he should have done better and what he did wasn't good enough. But he kind of said there's always a decision to make with selection, and we'll make the decision with anyone like when we think they're ready. And he said Nicholas will play when we think it's right, when he's ready to go. He's taken a bit of time to settle in, basically, and time to adjust. We haven't seen him in a huge amount of games, apart from the Havant friendly we played behind closed doors. And he'll speak to Joe Perdomo and go from there. So I think Norris will probably stay in. I would go for a midfield three, and I'd probably put Lane onto the right. But again, Richie probably needs a start, so maybe you start Richie on the right and just put Lane onto the bench. Again, it's just a couple of changes, nothing major. There's no major surgery needed.
I do worry about our right winging situation at the moment. I ain't gonna lie. I don't want Lane there. I don't want Richie there. I don't even know if I want Severa. I might just play Severa just because at least he can match the pace of of the Oxford wingers.
Could have done with Gavin White.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
The right wing does concern me of who to play there. I honestly don't know. I wouldn't play Blair again. I don't mean like ever. I just mean for the moment. What wing is it? Sorensen's left wing, isn't he?
Striker / left wing, yeah.
Yeah. And Murphy only plays left wing. Oh, I'd probably play Lane there. I'd probably go Lane. I think we pretty much all got the same team, wouldn't we? And if Farrell's back, which I don't think he will be, I'd have him over Ogilvy because I just don't like Ogilvy in the Championship. So
yeah,
I don't think Farrell will be fit.
No, and Harry, what you were saying about Schmidt, and obviously what Messina was saying about Schmidt, like if he's not ready, then he can't start because the last thing you want to do is throw him in, and he just has a howler, and then he's straight back out, and Norris is back in.
So well, yeah, because you don't want to have two goalkeepers that are then out of form and are just shitting themselves. At least if you've got one waiting, ready to go, then you can deal with that. But
yeah, and I'd like to think Norris is not going to make those same mistakes. Like, and obviously, Russ, you said he watched some of the games last season, and he was kind of did similar last season. But you would like to think,
Yeah,
hopefully, he's not going to be like that on Saturday.
he just needs like a metal bar behind his hand,
Yeah,
so it just makes it nice and strong.
he just needs to improve diving to his right.
Yeah,
that's the only thing I could. I think he's a very good up close shot stopper. Like his Exeter save, like his West Brom save on the goal line, the header against Sheffield United. I think things like that is decent. It's the long distance and the near post right hand side that he's just
obviously not as comfortable diving
with.
to his right as he is to his left.
No, like as I said, like if you go and watch the goals conceded, most of them he either doesn't dive for or they're to his right. It's very rare you see him go. He dive to his left and doesn't save it. I mean, it's something for him definitely to work on, but you like to think it's something that should have been picked up a long time ago.
Yeah.
Right, so shall we go to Harry's Who Am I?
Go on in. Let's do it.
Let's go. Right, so you'll get a clue each time. There's just fun and games. There's no table like Haz versus Daz for the Not Ben Cup. So your first clue is I started and finished my career at Royal Antwerp. Obviously, this is a player that has or currently plays for Pompey. It's not just any random person.
Can we guess at any point, or if you guess
you can have a guess per point per clue.
Richie Dillett.
Daz?
Richie Dillett?
Yes, that is correct, and I'm very disappointed that you got that straight away.
Do you know why I knew that? Do you know why I knew that?
I thought that's obscure enough.
Do you know why I did that? Do you know I did my Who Am I the other day with my quiz?
You looked at him, didn't you?
I looked at him and looked at the clubs he played for.
Bastard. Right. I'll have to make that harder for next week then.
Lovely. Obviously, just looking at time and that, I know we've run over, but it's not. I've got a problem with that, to be honest, especially when we had a special guest. Is there anything else you guys want to chat about? Any other business, or?
I'd just like to finish on kind of just stay positive. To be honest, let's get behind them. We didn't buckle when we lost 4-0 twice last season at home. Okay, this was an away fixture, but we bounced back each time. Then there's no reason why we won't do it again. Everyone needs to stay behind them. This performance will be an anomaly. We've performed well in most of the other 7 games, and they have been harder. We just switched off and we had a bad night. Let's back the team, get behind them. Even if we go a goal down, stand up, chant, get behind them. They need our support. They will be suffering, and after last night, they probably should suffer a little bit. But we, as Jack said, we need to help them as well as they help us. We need to work together and back them, and if we do that, the win will come sooner. So stay behind them, and we'll get a positive result. Come on, boys!
Yeah, I agree with that. Like these players, there doesn't really seem any like bad apples in there, not that I can think of. But as you say, like we need to get behind them. Obviously, after the result last night, all of a sudden everything's wrong with the club again. Like academy's crap, stadium's crap, sausage rolls are crap. Like we just need to get behind everyone, I think, to be honest.
Unfortunately, there's a few people that just can't wait for that. Weirdly, can't wait for us to get absolutely slaughtered, so then they can get all their points across.
I'm surprised the Coalition didn't start up their Twitter page again, to be honest.
Well, that's the. I mean, if there's obviously a group of people that never wanted the Islands here, that's absolutely fine. I never had any issue with that because everyone's entitled to their opinion. Like, but I just don't like when it's as soon as there's one loss, as soon as we like have a bad performance, they're straight in there. I think sort of give it a bit more time.
The Islanders are not at fault. Like we didn't lose 6-1 last night because the goal for quality was massive. It was because we just did not turn up, and that's got nothing to do with the Islanders. Them players who turned up to Sheffield United, who gave absolutely everything, they didn't bother last night, bar probably 2 or 3. But
it's got nothing to do with the summer recruitment either.
No.
Because we
thing.
haven't had an issue with the summer recruitment in the last 7 games before it.
No.
We just had a shit game. Everyone has one, and we just move on.
The one thing that will piss me off Saturday is if I see one player try and pump the crowd up, I will want them slapped because we will give you everything. Them fans last night were absolutely incredible.
They were unreal.
You got Stoke fans praising us. You got other other teams praising us. We do not need players waving their arms, trying to pump up the Fratton end. No, you need to pump yourselves up on the pitch, lads. That's all I've got to say to them.
Yeah, exactly. Spot on.
I have got 2 other things that I want to bring up quickly. One of them is, if anyone here who's listening to this on Spotify later, this is a very rogue shout because I very much doubt he will ever hear this. But Marlon Pack, if you win the toss or get a chance to pick what side to go on, and you swap sides again, because I have video footage that you had a chance to kick off towards the Milton end, and you swapped it, you'd look round and you asked, should we swap? I don't know who. I don't know if it's Norris because of the sun, which I think it was you, Daz, that pointed out. If it's because of the fucking sun, put a fucking hat on and grow up. Because we shoot towards the Fratton end in the second half. I am sick to death of it being in the first half. It just kills the game. Luton were better in the first half. West Brom were better in the first half. Sheff United were better in the first half. As soon as it switches, it just dies. The atmosphere dies. And to see that we swapped it ourselves, I was fuming. I ain't gonna lie.
Marlon, just so you know, those are the thoughts of Russ and not the thoughts of myself. And I'm pretty sure Harry, because we said this the other day. We love you, even if Russ doesn't. Okay.
I didn't say I don't love him. It's just I can't believe that he done that.
No, I get it. I do, because it is frustrating when it gets turned around. It's not coming towards us the second half, because whenever you get a Fratton, even when I was younger, I used to be in the Fratton end when it was like half the size. You always felt like it's all right, second half. We've still got the second half. We're kicking towards this way, and when you don't have that, I do think that affects the second half and the feeling around it and the bit of the atmosphere, because obviously when you're attacking down our end, down the Fratton end, you feel more involved in it. And then obviously the problem is that where last season we had half the Milton end filled with Pompey as well, it kind of had the feeling for both sides. It probably didn't matter as much, but now obviously you've got teams coming down filling out that end, but apart from the one section, and you just don't get that anymore. So yeah, let's hope we're shooting down the Fratton end second half on Saturday. But anything else?
Other than that was it. It was just praising the fans for last night, and then having a go at Marlon.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, obviously it's a little bit of a longer one, this one, than usual. But as we said, we had a special guest, so thank you everyone who hung on in there until the last couple of minutes. Don't worry, there's no extra time, so we're conceding a late goal. But yeah, so obviously we'll look forward to Oxford, and we'll be back again next Thursday, 8:00. That's right, yeah? All good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd imagine, I doubt there'll be one the week after, because obviously it's international break, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll have our own international break, so that's right.
Yeah, just remain Pompey, remain positive, and always remain Pompey, and remain positive.
Come on, the boys. Come on, up the Blues.